Hey, welcome back into the internet. Gabe DeArmond here, PowerMizzou.com publisher. We are here with Tiger Recruiting Tuesday because it's Tuesday. That means Sean Williams and I talk Mizzou recruiting. We'll get to that in just a minute. It also means you get to hear my weekly plea that if you are looking to do anything with your mortgage, whether that be a refinance, buying a new house, building a house, whatever you're doing, give Brandon Barnes the first shot to earn your business. Brandon is over at USA Mortgage. You can check him out at showmemortgage.com. Got a couple phone numbers there, 818-2772 or 590-0001. If you are anywhere in the state of Missouri, Brandon can help you out. He'll give you great customer service, the lowest rates possible, and maybe even spend some time talking Mizzou football with you because he's probably got more knowledge and better stories than Sean and I do. But Sean and I are going to still take our shot. Sean, you're on pseudo live internet TV now, so best behavior for the next few minutes.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, recruiting kind of pretty slow right now. Like we were just talking in our extensive pre-show meeting that this is kind of just the calm before the storm, right? You might get a random thing here or there, but Missouri goes on the road, then they have SEMO, then they're on the road again. So we're kind of even in that period where visits aren't really much of a big deal.
Right, yeah. We were that extensive pre-show briefing 5 minutes before we hit record here.
Max. I think that's giving it too much credit, yeah.
But, yeah, it's kind of a slow time, and look, I mean, that's kind of how it works for a lot of schools. You try to get as many commitments for all your top targets as you can during the summer. And then you spend your fall, concentrating on the season, bringing some top guys in that you can evaluate more film. Maybe you offer some new guys. Obviously, we've seen Missouri do that. They've offered some defensive linemen, some new cornerbacks, some DBs. So, they're it's very slow, because you got to concentrate on the season too, So the SEMO obviously wasn't a great game to bring top dudes in,
right.
So although, Marquise Graciel was there apparently. Yep. So that's a good thing to have him there. And obviously that's a guy that, we're going to talk about a lot going forward because Alabama is, sniffing around. He's mentioned about going to Oregon as well. So, even though he's committed, I mean, there's obviously that carrot dangling in front of him that says Alabama Crimson Tide, and playing for a team like that, it's always obviously appealing. So something to monitor moving forward. But, I mean, for him to come and visit for the SEMO game, hey, man, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I mean, so.
So kind of along those lines, and Eli Drinkwitz and I believe it was DJ Smith went and watched his game on Friday night, the night before the Mizzou SEMO game. So when do you think we've talked like Oregon, Iowa State, whoever else he's talked about visiting? We don't really view that as a big deal. We don't really even think he'll take those visits, but maybe. But when do you think kind of the timeline of an Alabama visit? Like Missouri fans can quit worrying about that. I mean, to me, there's got to be a time where that news is going to come out, right? If he does set up that visit, at some point it's going to come out. I mean, are we thinking, hey, if you get through the regular season and you haven't heard that he's going to Tuscaloosa, you feel okay about it? Or are we thinking, probably go ahead and wait all the way till signing day to feel good about it?
I would think, honestly, with him, he seems very, when I talked to him during his jamboree, he's, I kind of asked him specifically, and I've mentioned this before, I said, hey, with these other visits, you're trying to make sure you're making the right decision. And his response to me immediately after that was, hey, I think I've already made the right decision. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think with him, if you don't hear anything during the season that he's went to Alabama, I mean, obviously he went there in July, unofficially.
Right.
But he's saying he's going to go back. He wants to go back and take an official there for sure. I mean, that was the first team he mentioned when I said, hey, other visits you got planned. He's already went to Iowa State for an official during the summer. I don't think you got to worry about them. Oregon, way too far away, even though he's mentioned them. I know the big appeal is playing close to home, and that's the appeal Missouri has, obviously, with his relationship with the coaches, too, come into play. But, I mean, you think I know Alabama's a huge carrot to dangle, but I mean it's not exactly close to home.
I was going to say, I'm
So
not a geography whiz, but I can do that geography.
yeah, yeah. So Alabama's not close to home by no means. But it's Alabama. There's always that appeal, and if they show you enough interest and they show that they really want you, I mean, definitely gives you something to think about. So, but yeah, I think with him, I mean, he seems, just with that response he gave me, I think he's pretty. I think it's going to take a lot to really flip him from Missouri. And I think if he goes through the season or through the regular season, you don't hear anything about a visit. I think you could probably pretty much pin him in as Missouri. He's going to be in the class for sure.
Yeah, because, look, the truth is when it's Alabama recruiting, it's a little bit different of a picture than most other schools. So what we don't know is where he stands on their board. So that's kind of what I'm thinking is, hey, if we get through the regular season and Alabama hasn't kind of pushed him to set up a visit, then that makes me think maybe that visit's not going to materialize. Maybe this is something that was talked about but never ends up happening. And I mean, it's really weird, but we're already a quarter of the way through the season, right? Alabama only has probably 5 more home games that they could bring him in for. So it's just something to watch. No new developments or anything there, but like you said, he was scheduled to be in Columbia. I can't promise he made it. I don't know. I didn't walk through the stands at the SEMO game, but I know he was scheduled to be in town for that game, and Eli Drinkwitz had gone to his game on Friday night. The next visit really that I know of is that North Texas game. Now, I think they'll have some kids in for Tennessee October 2nd. Don't get me wrong. Whether it's official or unofficial, we'll have more information on that getting closer to that game. But the next official we know is, last we knew, Sam Horn was scheduled to come up on October 9th, and I think as far as we know, that's still his plan.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that was what he told us, at least during the summer. I don't know if that's changed any, but yeah, I mean, and obviously Sam Horn, look, I mean, just because it's North Texas, don't worry about that. I mean, he's been up to Missouri. He's taken a lot of time to visit Missouri on his own dime throughout the spring and the summer. So, I think it just kind of fits his schedule to come up there on the 9th and enjoy the weekend. He might not have a game that week. Not really sure. I haven't looked at his schedule yet, but it just kind of works out for him. So, yeah, we do know that Sam Horn will at least be here. If Sam Horn's going to be there for North Texas, I'm sure a lot of the in-state commits will probably swing by and visit as well and just kind of make it a nice little weekend for him. So,
and I would think there might be a possibility with Sam Horn in town that Missouri might see if Luther Burden would make a drive down I-70 for that game because, again, we haven't seen Luther actually confirm this, but the word out there, and look, again, we know Frank Cusimano knows the family, and I guess he said on the radio, this is coming from his dad. I have no reason to believe the date isn't true, that he's committing on October 20th. He is supposed to take an official to Georgia on October 16th. If you're Missouri, I'm thinking that October 9th might be a good weekend to say, hey, Luther, could you get a ride down to Columbia and hang out with the guy who would be your quarterback who's going to be here all weekend? I don't know what East St. Louis's schedule is. I haven't looked at it. But that would make sense to me that, hey, maybe come check it out. Or maybe even you go ahead and take an official that weekend, even though you hadn't planned to. Like, it seems to me he's got a top 3. The official to Norman probably isn't happening. The official to Gainesville probably isn't happening, right? I mean, maybe they are. Look, we don't know that for sure. But there is a visit available. If I'm Eli Drinkwitz, I'm saying, hey, man, why don't you go ahead and come in on the 9th, and we'll buy you a bunch of food and treat you like a king, and you can hang out with Sam Horn.
Yeah, you can, after the game's over, you can get out on the field and, do a little throwing around the Luther Burden with Sam Horn. I mean, that's a perfect setup right there. So, yeah, with Sam Horn, I'm looking at his high school schedule, and actually the 9th is open weekend. They don't have a game that week, so that works out for him on a personal, at least football schedule wise and everything. But yeah, that's a perfect setup. I mean, if you got Georgia that's going to try to make that final impression before that supposed October 20th date, you bet Eli Drinkwitz and the coaching staff is going to try to get him in for a visit before then. It's, at some point in time. And I think the 9th would be a good one. If you got Horn in town, hey, bring him in and you guys can play some pitch and catch a little bit.
Yeah, and I just looked up the East St. Louis schedule. They're at Alton, which is kind of in North St. Louis, on Friday the 8th. So they're in the area. I know Missouri
Right.
generally doesn't like the homecoming game to be an early morning game. They like to have that in the afternoon or the evening if possible. So, if that ends up happening, then you can tell Burden, hey, Saturday morning, just wake up, drive on down a couple hours, stay in town Saturday and Sunday. Hey, people here you can stay with, hang out with the quarterback, all that. Burden obviously did release his top 3. I think it was on Friday night. Huge shock to us that it was Missouri, Georgia, and Alabama. I know we were looking more Bowling Green, Northern Kentucky type schools, but Missouri, Georgia, Alabama, nobody had those as his top 3, right?
Oh yeah, nobody. Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about that in the last one. Who's the third team, Oklahoma or Alabama? That was kind of our pick. So, it turned up being Alabama. So I don't know where they are in the pecking order per se. I mean, everything we're hearing is Georgia, Missouri. And look, that October 20th date. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, but I'm not gonna say that's final or official until it's on an edit on social media. Okay.
Hey, exactly, and the thing that people really need to understand is with any kid, but especially with a kid that is this highly ranked and has this many options, October 20th is still 29 days away as people are watching this show. I mean, things can kind of happen between now and then, right? I mean, yeah, he put out a top 3. Who's to say that has to be the top 3? I was trying to look up his visits that he originally had scheduled. My internet is giving me some issues right now, but I know he did at one point, have a okay, now it's coming up.
I was going to say, I'll help you out.
Yeah, he he took a visit to Oklahoma in June, and we apparently have not entered these scheduled official visits into our database, so I can't tell you exactly when they are, but I know during the season he was planning to visit Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and Oklahoma. So are Florida, Alabama, and Oklahoma still happening? As of today, we don't know, and who knows? I mean, I assume he's a high enough profile kid. If he shows up on one of those campuses, it is going to be known. But we don't know if those trips are happening. And so speculating what's going to, we can tell you where we think he's going today. And 29 days from now, that really just doesn't matter.
Right. I mean, there's a lot that can happen. And, when you got a kid like Luther that releases the top 3, you got maybe teams like Florida, hitting the push button, like, hey man, we gotta get on the phone and try to get this guy down for a visit. Try to get him in for an official. Coaching staffs that are out there trying to scramble to maybe try to get Burden in for a visit. Teams like Florida, Oklahoma, even. I know he was committed there. I mean, that's possible that they're trying to say they're getting him on the phone, being like, "Hey, man, can you come in, squeeze an official visit before you make your decision?" And 29 days, man, a lot can happen between now and then. That's for sure.
And also, not that we've ever seen this happen in recruiting before, but so October 20th is on a Wednesday. He's taking that visit to Athens on the 15th and 16th, right? Who says he doesn't come back home on Sunday night and go, you know what? I'm not ready to do this on October 20th. I'm going to go ahead and push this back. And again, that's why I do think it's kind of important that we have not seen him even retweet that date, right? Because that may be the plan. That may be the plan of the people around him. That may be what was told to the media. But until Luther actually comes out and says, I'm announcing on October 20th, and really then until it becomes October 20th, who knows, man? We've seen plenty of kids push back their commitment dates, right? Hey, I'm going to make this commitment on my grandma's birthday. And then a week before that, it's like, I'm just not ready. I need more time. Sorry, I'm going to push it back a month. And that's certainly not out of the question.
Yeah, I mean, you consider how, especially with the high-profile, athletes, and then Luther's definitely one of those. He's a 5-star kid. He's the number 1 wide receiver. Coaches are blowing up his phone, so, and it may get to the point after he takes that Georgia official and, yeah, it's like you said, he might end up saying, hey, I'm not ready to do it on the 20th. I want to take visits to Florida. I want to go check out Alabama again. Or, a lot of things can happen. He's a high-profile guy. A lot of people want to get him on campus. A lot of people want to get him on the phone. So, it's for a guy like that to go through the recruiting process, there's a lot of pressure, man. I
Mhm.
mean, because you got coaches, you got reporters blowing up your phone, and it can be overwhelming. So, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that date does get pushed back. So, I mean, a lot can happen in those
Right.
29 days coming up.
Right.
So,
So, look, as of now, I plan to meet Sean at East St. Louis High School on October 20th. And between now and then, plenty of things might happen that could change that. So, let's just talk a little bit of big picture stuff. Again, the commitments have been relatively quiet, I guess, here recently. I mean, I'm trying to think who the most recent guy was. I know that they had the
Valid
transfer
Erickson.
from Wyoming. Oh, Valen Erickson, that's right, was the most recent
Yeah.
commitment that flipped from Nebraska. But that's been a couple weeks, and there's nobody that we're looking at that we say, hey, we think we're seeing something happen here pretty soon, right?
Yeah, there's no alarm, alarms going off that's kind of
Right.
indicating that anything's really going to happen anytime soon. Usually we kind of get those indicators, and especially if somebody says, hey, we're talking about Luther Burden and commitment dates.
Right.
Somebody says, hey, I'm going to commit in 2 weeks or whatever. We usually have a good indicator on things like that. But yeah, it's relatively quiet right now, and I think you're seeing like a lot of those kids that took visits during the summer. I mean, I think they're kind of, I don't know, they're kind of reassessing things and maybe seeing who else they can visit before they, make a decision in December. So, yeah, a lot going on right now. I think, we mentioned James Pierce last week. That's somebody that, you mentioned, and hey, we both kind of shoved him off.
Yep.
I mean, he took an official during June to Missouri, and I mean, he's a linebacker target out of Florida. And there's Missouri coaches just went and watched his game, so obviously he's still in play for Missouri, but we can't get a good read on him. He doesn't answer the phone. He doesn't do interviews. So, I mean, that's a guy to keep an eye on. But I mean, if he commits, he's probably going to be one of those guys that just does it randomly. So,
Right.
heaven forbid, we probably won't have an indicator on that guy. So, but yeah, I mean, he's kind of really the only one I can really think of. And we've talked about Burden ad nauseum on here. And deservedly so. I mean, he's one of the highest ranked kids to come out of St. Louis, and Missouri's right there in the battle. So, but yeah, those two guys really just kind of come to mind as possibilities that could happen anytime soon or here in the next few weeks. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I think people are going to kind of be slow and deliberate, and maybe wait a while. So.
Yeah, and they've got 14 commitments right now. We're still thinking a class, closer to 25 probably than 20. So to me, that means another 5 or 6 high school guys, and you've got 3 or 4 spots left for transfers. I think is probably the way the numbers approximately work out.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of going back, you obviously going to leave a spot open for Burton. Looking at some D linemen that they offered recently, some defensive backs as well, whether they take another cornerback, another safety. But they've offered plenty of guys along that route. So those are the positions they're kind of mainly looking at right now in terms of high school prospects.
Yeah, and again, maybe one linebacker. Pretty confident they're done at offensive line. I would think they're done at running back. I don't really see a need for another one there. Certainly done at quarterback. They're done at wide receiver if it's not Luther Burden. So really at this point, offense, I mean, the only thing I could see is maybe another tight end and Luther Burden. I think the rest of the class is pretty much on defense until you maybe get into that transfer market in the spring and see what's there.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, I think the way Missouri kind of had success, at least in the transfer portal last year, I think they'll definitely keep some spots open and make that happen this year as well. I mean, the transfer portal is such a big thing now, so you gotta save some spots open for those possibilities, and add some instant impact guys too.
Yeah, and you got to see some of the guys that have choose to transfer away from here, and where that leaves your own roster.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to finish up with you, Sean, on this. I mean, obviously these kids that are in the program now as first, second, third year guys. You covered a lot of them. Just curious, watching, seeing a little bit of Missouri so far. The two guys that have The three guys really that have made a big impact or have played a lot, I think, as true freshmen would be Arden Walker and Mekhi Wingo on defense, and then Dominic Lovett on offense. Any of those guys surprise you as far as how quickly they've gotten on the field?
No, I know, not really. I mean, maybe Arden Walker, just because I didn't really see a whole lot of him, and just kind of was curious, how he would transition. I think a lot of people were surprised about, or I've seen a lot of people on our board say they were kind of surprised about Mekhi Wingo, but not really too shocked. I mean, he's a really athletic dude, and I'm not too shocked to see him get a little bit of playing time along defensive line. I know that's typically a spot where true freshmen don't really come in and play right away. But, that doesn't shock me too much, just because, I mean, he's just such an athletic guy, versatile as well. And Dominic Lovett, I mean, I think he's just an explosive player. I mean, if he's that an explosive player, get him out there and get some reps and see what he can do on the field. So, none of those, I'd say if the most surprising out of the three would probably be Arden Walker. But, it's just kind of, it is interesting to see that, three or two out of the three guys are defensive linemen, or kind of slash linebackers. So,
yep. Well, Sean, we'll let you go for now, man. We'll check in with you next week. At that point, we'll only be 22 days away from October 20th. So only
to count. We'll do a countdown special show every week up until October 20th.
Only 4 more shows till what may or may not be Luther Burden Day. So thanks, man.
Yep, no problem.
All right, Sean Williams, our recruiting editor on PowerMizzou.com. He is the fountain of knowledge. Mitchell and I just kind of go along for the ride. He keeps us up to date on everything that's going on. And speaking of fountains of knowledge, look, if you want to know what's going on in the mortgage market, if you need something real estate-wise, refinance, if you're building a house, you're moving, Brandon Barnes is your guy, mortgage banker over at USA Mortgage. He's located on East Broadway in Columbia, Missouri. You can email him bbarnes@usa-mortgage.com. You can go online at showmemortgage.com to get an online quote. You can call him there. 2 phone numbers, 573-818-2772, 573-590-0001. And again, Brandon is located in Columbia, but he can take care of you all over the state of Missouri. He can do anything in any town. I meant to pick out a random town. Maybe you want to move to Clinton, Missouri, right? Maybe you want to get a cabin somewhere down around a lake. So hit up Brandon. He will take care of you. And appreciate you guys stopping by on this Tuesday for Tiger Tuesday Recruiting. We will be back with it next week. Just a programming note, no 573 report on Wednesday this week. I'll be back with opposition research on Thursday, breaking down Boston College. All these shows, we got one kind of built-in bye week, just like a football season, during the year for each show. And scheduling obligations mean no 573 report on Wednesday, but be back on Thursday with opposition research, and we'll be back here with Tiger Recruiting Tuesday next Tuesday, oddly enough, brought to you by Brandon Barnes and USA Mortgage. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch up with you another time.